When you first see the photographs of Bianca Devins, you notice a brightness that seems to reach through the screen. Pink hair framing a thoughtful face. A shy smile hiding an artist's quiet confidence. To many of her friends, Bianca was the girl who could turn a plain afternoon into a conversation about art, music, and the hidden meanings of life. To thousands of strangers, she was a rising star on the edges of social media culture, a 19-year-old sharing pieces of herself in carefully curated posts. But behind every username lies a human story, and behind every image, a reality more complex than the comments and likes can capture. My name is Samuel, a private investigator. For months I have retraced Bianca's final days, following a trail that winds through private chat servers, Instagram profiles, and quiet streets in upstate New York. This is not just the story of a murder. It is a story about connection, and the darkness that can grow where connection turns into obsession. A life online. Bianca lived in Utica, New York, a small city where neighborhoods roll gently into wooded hills and quiet parks. Friends remember her as both shy and bold, an introvert who loved cosplay conventions, who could spend hours sketching characters from her favorite shows, yet light up a room when she felt safe. Online, she found the freedom to express parts of herself that felt too fragile for the offline world. She shared art, fashion, and thoughts about mental health with a community of teens who understood the strange comfort of late-night conversations in digital spaces. To Bianca, these platforms were not just apps on a phone. They were lifelines, places where a teenager could escape the limits of a small town and meet people who spoke her language. But the same digital doors that opened her world also allowed strangers to enter it. A chance encounter. It was in these virtual hangouts that Bianca first crossed paths with a young man named Brandon Clark. Like many who followed her online, Clark appeared friendly, supportive, even protective. Their messages were typical of the internet age: memes, music links, inside jokes. At first glance there was nothing sinister, just another connection in a network of connections. But as I reviewed their exchanges, a pattern slowly emerged. Clark's messages grew more frequent, more urgent, more possessive. What began as admiration edged toward fixation. Friends later told me they noticed subtle changes. Clark insisted on knowing where Bianca was, who she spoke to, what her plans were. He masked his jealousy as concern, cloaking control in the language of care. To a teenager accustomed to online friendships, the warnings were easy to miss. Threads of warning. As an investigator, I've learned that the signs of danger often hide in plain sight. Scrolling through their archived chats, I saw the red flags. Late-night confessions of loneliness, subtle guilt trips, and declarations that sounded romantic but carried an undercurrent of threat. Bianca, kind, empathetic, perhaps too trusting, continued to engage, never imagining that a follower could become a predator. Her story is not unique. Across the world, millions of young people build relationships behind screens, where emotional boundaries can blur and warning signs are easy to dismiss. In Bianca's case, those blurred lines would soon turn deadly. The night of July 13, 2019. On a warm summer evening, Bianca prepared for what should have been a carefree night. A small concert with friends, a break from the routine of online life. Clark offered to drive. To outsiders it looked like a harmless ride to a music event. Two acquaintances sharing a night of music and conversation. But in Clark's mind, a dangerous plan was already unfolding. As the sun set over Utica, Bianca's digital life continued as usual. Posts appeared on her social feeds, cheerful and ordinary, giving no hint of the tragedy waiting in the shadows. Her friends exchanged emojis and quick updates, unaware that each message would soon become evidence in a case that would shock the nation. I have seen many cases in my career, but the story of Bianca Devins stands apart. Because her life, and her death, unfolded in the same public spaces where so many of us spend our days. The trail of clues was not hidden in dark alleys or locked rooms. It was scattered across servers, chat logs, and social feeds, waiting to be pieced together. This investigation begins with those digital footprints. To understand what happened to Bianca, we must follow the path she walked so openly, and confront the chilling reality of how an ordinary night turned into a crime broadcast to the world. The concert night. The evening of July 13, 2019, began like 100 other summer nights in Utica. Warm air drifted through open windows, music pulsed from car speakers, and the city felt alive with the promise of freedom. For Bianca Devins, it was supposed to be a night of music and laughter, a short road trip to a small concert in New York State, a chance to escape the screen and enjoy real conversation. She left home dressed for the casual show, carrying her phone like any 19-year-old. Her mother saw nothing unusual in her departure. Bianca had been to concerts before, had friends she trusted, and promised to return before morning. The driver was Brandon Clark, the young man she had been chatting with for months. To the outside world, it looked like a simple ride to a music event. But the tension hidden inside Clark was already sharp enough to cut. The road to the venue. Witness statements and phone data later revealed the pattern of the trip. Clark picked Bianca up shortly after dusk. The pair stopped for snacks, shared playlists, and exchanged photos with friends on Discord and Instagram. To those watching online, the posts seemed routine, smiling selfies, song lyrics, and a brief video of a stage being set for the night's performance. But private messages retrieved later show a darker undertone. Clark sent Bianca a series of possessive notes, questioning her decision to meet other friends after the concert. Bianca replied with polite reassurance, trying to keep the mood light. Inside the car, that reassurance was not enough. Investigators would later learn that Clark had brought a knife, rope, and a plan shaped by weeks of jealousy. While Bianca spoke about music and weekend plans, Clark's thoughts circled a single, violent idea. Friends grow concerned. At the venue, Bianca mingled easily with friends she had met online. Witnesses described her as cheerful and relaxed, laughing as she moved from group to group. Clark stayed close but silent, his eyes following every interaction. Several friends noticed the way he hovered, stepping in when Bianca spoke to other young men. One later told police, he acted like they were dating, but Bianca kept saying they were just friends. Bianca maintained her independence, chatting with friends and enjoying the show. When the concert ended near midnight, she planned to meet another acquaintance for a brief afterparty. Clark objected, suggesting they head straight home. Their argument, overheard by a witness, was brief but tense. Bianca eventually agreed to leave with him, perhaps to avoid drama, perhaps because she sensed the night had already turned sour. The drive back. Security cameras recorded the pair leaving the venue parking lot. Cell tower data shows the car heading toward Utica but making several unexplained stops along the way. During one pause, Bianca messaged a friend, "He's acting weird. I'll text when I get home." It was her final independent message. Clark's later confession filled in the blanks. He accused Bianca of betraying him, twisting friendly interactions into imagined romantic slights. Bianca tried to calm him, insisting they were only friends, but Clark's obsession had already crossed into dangerous territory. The final stop. Just before sunrise, the car pulled onto a secluded dead-end street near a wooded area on Poe Street in Utica. Residents would later recall faint sounds of argument and a single sharp cry. Inside the vehicle, a confrontation erupted. Clark produced the knife he had hidden in the car. Despite Bianca's pleas, the attack was swift and brutal. Minutes later, Clark began uploading images of the crime scene to Discord and Instagram. He captioned the photographs with chilling messages, framing the violence as if it were a tragic love story. While some users initially believed it was a cruel hoax, others quickly recognized the danger and contacted local authorities. The discovery. At approximately 7:20 a.m., Utica police received multiple emergency calls reporting disturbing images online. Officers traced the account to Brandon Clark's phone and began a frantic search. Using GPS data, they located the vehicle near the dead-end street. What they found was a scene that would haunt even the most experienced investigators. Bianca's body in the back seat, Clark sitting nearby with a self-inflicted wound to his neck, a cell phone still streaming to the world. Paramedics stabilized Clark and rushed him to the hospital. Police secured the scene and began the painstaking process of documenting evidence, phones, cameras, and the digital footprints that would soon reveal how a public obsession turned into a private nightmare. The night that began with music and friendship ended in a spectacle of violence shared across the internet. For investigators like myself, the challenge was no longer only to capture a killer. It was to untangle the web of online messages, photos, and live posts that told the story of how this tragedy unfolded in real time. The digital hunt. When the first emergency calls reached the Utica Police Department, officers faced a challenge that was both modern and terrifying. A murder in progress that was already broadcast online. Images of Bianca Devins's body were circulating across Discord servers and Instagram feeds before the first patrol cars even rolled toward Post Street. This was not a crime hidden behind closed doors, it was a crime announced to the world. A race against time. Dispatchers relayed the reports to every available unit. The information was fragmented, screenshots from Discord, frantic messages from teenagers across multiple states, and a username that could vanish at any moment. Officers worked quickly with platform moderators to track the GPS location of Brandon Clark's phone. Within minutes, a coordinate ping led investigators to the dead-end street where Bianca's final moments had unfolded. As patrol units closed in, they feared the worst, that Clark might harm someone else or attempt suicide. What they found was chilling but controlled. Brandon Clark sitting on a tarp beside the black SUV, holding a phone in one hand and a knife in the other, blood seeping from a deep cut to his neck. Securing the scene. Officers approached cautiously, weapons drawn. Body camera footage later revealed Clark's calm, almost robotic demeanor. He murmured phrases about love and betrayal, speaking as if the crime were a twisted performance meant for the internet. When officers ordered him to drop the knife, he placed it on the ground and lay back, still clutching his phone. Paramedics stabilized his injury and rushed him to St. Elizabeth Medical Center. Meanwhile, detectives secured the vehicle and began the slow, careful process of collecting evidence. Inside the car lay Bianca's lifeless body, a smartphone with its camera still active, and a backpack containing rope, zip ties, and printed photos of the pair. Every object hinted at premeditation. The online battlefield. While police documented the physical scene, a parallel battle raged in cyberspace. Images of the crime spread across social networks at a pace no moderation team could fully contain. Friends and strangers alike scrambled to report and block the photos, but copies appeared faster than they could be removed. Some users cruelly reshared the images, others organized volunteer groups to flood hashtags with harmless pictures of flowers and sunsets to bury the violence. For investigators, these digital footprints were a gold mine. Every repost, every screenshot, every direct message created a trail of timestamps and metadata. Detectives from the Utica Police Cybercrime Unit began downloading logs from Discord, Instagram, and private chat groups where Clark had interacted with Bianca. They preserved entire servers as evidence, capturing conversations that revealed weeks of escalating obsession. Reconstructing the timeline. By matching Clark's phone data with social media activity, investigators built a minute-by-minute timeline of the night. Messages showed Clark growing agitated at the concert, accusing Bianca of flirting with other men. Location data confirmed unscheduled stops on the drive home, moments when he appeared to be rehearsing or debating his next move. Even the horrifying uploads after the murder contained clues. EXIF data embedded in the images pinpointed the exact coordinates of the car, helping officers reach the scene before Clark could escape or bleed out. A disturbing motive. During questioning at the hospital, Clark offered a narrative that mixed jealousy with theatricality. He claimed Bianca had betrayed him by talking to another boy, framing the murder as a tragic romance rather than a calculated act of control. Detectives quickly dismantled this excuse. Evidence of pre-planning, the rope, the printed photos, the knife purchased days earlier. showed intent far beyond a crime of passion. Psychological experts later noted that Clark exhibited signs of narcissistic obsession, seeking both domination over Bianca and attention from the public. The decision to broadcast images of the crime was not an afterthought, it was central to his plan. Samuel's reflection. As I sifted through the digital evidence months later, I was struck by a grim irony. The same platforms that allowed Bianca to share her art and connect with friends also became the stage for her killer's final performance. Every like, every comment, every repost formed a map of a crime that was both intimate and public. For investigators, the case became a template for a new era of policing, where solving a murder requires not only fingerprints and DNA, but also rapid coordination with social media companies and the ability to interpret the language of online communities. The hunt for evidence was far from over. Detectives still needed to transform a mountain of digital data into a case strong enough to hold up in court. As Clark recovered from his injuries, prosecutors prepared to confront a suspect who had already confessed in the most public way imaginable, by showing the world exactly what he had done. Building the case. Brandon Clark survived the wound to his neck, and with his survival came the difficult work of turning a shocking crime into a prosecutable case. Even though he had practically confessed by uploading the images, investigators knew that a courtroom demands precision. Every message, every photo, every movement of Clark's phone had to be documented and verified to stand against any defense. Gathering digital evidence. The cybercrime unit worked around the clock to secure records before they could vanish. Discord servers were mirrored onto police drives. Instagram granted emergency access to Clark's accounts. Cloud storage was subpoenaed. Forensic specialists recovered deleted messages and hidden image caches from Clark's phone, piecing together a complete digital diary of his obsession. These records revealed chilling preparation. Days before the murder, Clark had searched for terms like how to hide a body and how to cut a throat. He saved screenshots of Bianca with other friends, writing captions that suggested ownership rather than affection. In private chat logs, he hinted at making a statement and complained about being friend-zoned. Interviews and testimony. Detectives interviewed Bianca's friends and family, who described a friendly but non-romantic connection between Bianca and Clark. Several recalled warnings Bianca shared in passing, how Clark's attention sometimes felt too intense, how he would become upset if she spoke to other boys. None suspected he was capable of violence. These testimonies would later counter Clark's claims that their relationship was romantic or exclusive. Friends who attended the concert confirmed seeing Clark shadow Bianca throughout the evening. Witnesses described his agitation when Bianca mentioned plans to meet someone else after the show. Their accounts provided the human context behind the digital messages. The prosecution's strategy. Prosecutors in Oneida County built their case on two pillars: premeditation and digital documentation. They argued that Clark brought a knife, rope, and zip ties because he planned to kill Bianca if she rejected him. The flood of online images, far from being a moment of panic, was presented as proof of his desire for attention. Assistant District Attorney Sarah DeMellier prepared a sequence of exhibits that walked the jury through Clark's online activity in the hours before the murder. Search histories, location pings, and Discord messages painted a portrait of calculated obsession. The prosecution emphasized that Bianca repeatedly described Clark as a friend, making his claims of mutual love a dangerous fantasy. The defense. Clark's attorney attempted to argue diminished capacity, claiming the murder was an impulsive act fueled by emotional distress. They pointed to Clark's self-inflicted wound as evidence of remorse. But the sheer volume of planning undermined this narrative. The jury heard how he purchased the knife days in advance, brought a tarp to the crime scene, and rehearsed the digital uploads. Samuel's observation. As I sat in the courtroom, notebook in hand, the weight of digital evidence was overwhelming. In older cases, motive often lives in letters or whispered conversations. Here, every thought seemed to have a timestamp. Clark's obsession unfolded like a slow-moving storm across servers and chat logs, leaving a trail no defense could erase. This case demonstrated a new reality for investigators. The internet does not forget. While this permanence can spread harm, as it did with the graphic images, it can also preserve the truth long after the crime. Chapter 5, Judgment Day. After months of preparation, the trial opened to a packed courtroom and a media frenzy. Reporters from national outlets filled the benches, laptops glowing as they live-tweeted testimony. Outside, supporters of Bianca's family held posters urging social media reform and stricter laws against the spread of violent images. The plea. Surprisingly, Brandon Clark entered a guilty plea before the trial could fully proceed. He admitted to second-degree murder, a move that spared Bianca's family the trauma of reliving every detail during a lengthy trial. The plea guaranteed a sentence of 25 years to life in prison. During the plea hearing, Clark addressed the court in a monotone voice, claiming he acted out of jealousy and fear of abandonment. The judge listened without expression, then reminded Clark that his actions were deliberate and cruel. Sentencing. At the sentencing hearing, Bianca's mother and sister delivered emotional victim impact statements. They described the ongoing torment of seeing Bianca's images resurface online, and the pain of knowing strangers had shared those images for entertainment. Their words filled the courtroom with a heavy silence. Judge Michael Dwyer imposed the maximum sentence allowed by law. He condemned the murder as an act of pure selfishness and acknowledged the unique cruelty of broadcasting the crime. Clark showed little reaction as deputies led him away in handcuffs. Digital aftermath. Even after sentencing, the fight to protect Bianca's memory continued. Images of the crime persisted on obscure websites despite takedown efforts. Her family campaigned for Bianca's law, legislation aimed at giving families more control over graphic content of loved ones. Advocates used the case to push social media companies for faster removal of violent material and stronger mental health resources. The ripple effect. The courtroom may have delivered justice, but the echoes of Bianca Devins's death still resonate. Her murder exposed the dark intersection of social media, obsession, and violence. Law enforcement agencies across the country studied the case as a blueprint for responding to crimes that unfold in real time online. Community groups in Utica organized art shows, mental health workshops, and memorial events celebrating Bianca's creativity. Her family turned grief into advocacy, speaking in schools about digital safety and the warning signs of possessive relationships. Their mission was clear: to ensure that Bianca's story saves others from a similar fate. For me, as an investigator, this case is a lasting reminder. The same technology that allowed Bianca to express herself also gave her killer a stage. But it also preserved the evidence that brought him to justice. In that contradiction lies both the danger and the hope of our connected world. Bianca Devins was more than a victim of a crime. She was a young woman with dreams, art, and a future that should have stretched far beyond that summer night. Her story now stands as a warning and a call to action, one that asks all of us to look closer at the relationships we form online, and to protect the lives behind every screen. Bianca Devins' story is more than a headline. It is a painful reminder of how obsession, jealousy, and the viral nature of social media can collide with devastating consequences. Her life was full of art, love, and promise, and it deserves to be remembered for that light, not for the darkness that ended it. Here at True Crime Network, we share these cases so lessons can be learned, awareness can grow, and victims are never forgotten. If this investigation moved you, please subscribe to the channel, tap the notification bell, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us continue to bring careful, respectful reporting on real cases that matter. This is Samuel, and until our next investigation. Stay safe, stay aware, and take care of one another.